Welcome back to Inside City Hall. My next guest is trying to make history next year as the first openly transgender member of the New York City Council. Mel Wymore was born a woman, but after testosterone therapy, now identifies as transgender. Last week, he was in Albany lobbying for a bill that would ban discrimination against transgendered people. Joining us to discuss his campaign and his life, City Council candidate Mel Wymore. Thanks for joining us. Good to see you.
Thank you, Errol. Thank you.
Now, you are running full-time, and you've got about 18 months to go.
A long haul, actually, but I'm actually full-time as a community activist.
Yes.
And that's the philosophy of the campaign, that we continue to work in the community, working on projects, facilitating togetherness and solving problems in the community, building community.
One of the burdens of almost making history is that people have an insatiable curiosity. So I am curious. You, once upon a time, you were married and had a couple of kids.
That's
and
right.
You decided that that wasn't you, that you were living a life that wasn't really who you were.
That's true. I came to New York to essentially to start a family, and as I started a family, and as we progressed, I could feel that I wasn't being fully myself. And so New York is one of those places where you can really explore who you are, and I continued a process of exploration and went through several stages, actually. Mm-hmm. I came out as a lesbian, and that still wasn't quite a full expression of myself, and I started to look at the world of gender, and it was actually one particular incident in an institute, it's called Yes Institute, that came to my kid's school and taught a course on gender, and it was part of a curriculum about inclusion and anti-bullying, and parents were invited to come. So I came and participated and learned a lot about gender, but in that course, there were some interviews with children that really harkened back to my own childhood, and it kind of, the bell went off, and I said, wow, that is really what I've been looking for. So I went and took more courses and eventually realized that I wanted to transition.
Very interesting. Yeah. So now let's take it from the personal to the political. You were up in Albany with some other folks calling for legislation, or was it legislation? What exactly was it? Were you calling for a change in the human rights law or employment law?
No, it's the Gender Non-Discrimination Act, and that is a law that would prevent discrimination of unemployment and housing and many other things, healthcare, on the basis of one's gender expression. And it's already passed the Assembly, and it's about to be presented to the Senate. And so we were up there to encourage senators, New York State senators, to support that legislation. As a matter of fact, my personal opinion is we should be supporting human rights as a federal act, as a part of the Equal Rights Amendment. Sure. Or other legislation that would protect all human beings. But as a state, the next step for us to secure and protect the rights of all people is the Gender Act.
Well, tell me, in my experience, laws are necessary or are put forward to prevent recurrences of a problem. What's the horror story that agenda would be able to cure? Okay,
well, there was actually a lot of people up there representing the transgender community, and that could be people that are identified as male or female or any kind of gender on the whole continuum. So it's a broad group of people. It's an umbrella term. But many people who don't conform to their assigned sexual identity, in terms of how they experience themselves and what they're assigned when they're born, are often shunned from workplaces or housing opportunities, and also just socially, it can put people off to the point where people feel isolated and excluded from society. So this is not only an important move to make to protect those people, but also to raise awareness that we are all human as well. We want to be protected as well.
If elected, you would be one of only just a couple in the whole country, from what I understand, of transgender elected officials. Is that a privilege? Is that a burden? Is it even relevant to what you're doing in running for city council?
I run for city council because I'm a community activist. I've been a community activist before I even understood, my own identity. So that's very important to me. But I also have a strong conviction that everyone should be at the table, and transgender people are not represented in any real legislative office in the United States. Just like you said, a handful of people. And this would be a real honor for me to represent that community as well as the Upper West Side.
Okay, and the hard business of running for office, How do you put it together? What's the coalition? What's the politics? You're on the Upper West Side, this district for the most part.
Of course, I love the Upper West Side. I love the people of the Upper West Side. I love the potential of the Upper West Side. And I've been very active for a long time. So I've been sat on Community Board 7, and we've negotiated all kinds of great assets for the community. A new school, units of affordable housing, and new park spaces. So all of those things are things that I would bring to the community, as well as my identity as someone who's a new voice on City Council.
There was a bike lane issue up there on Columbus
That's
Avenue as well, right?
Right.
Where were you on that?
I was absolutely for the bike lane. I'm very much for sustainability and the things that bring us closer to sustainability. I love bike lanes and people getting out and not driving cars as much and riding their bike to work and for fun. And so that's part of the strategy, is to really bring the Upper West Side to one of the most sustainable communities that we know of.
It is indeed one of the most politically active communities,
That's
and
right.
probably in the whole United States. So
True.
you may not be alone in your quest for the City Council, as the race I guess, crowds up a little bit, perhaps. We'll talk with some other folks, but for now, thanks for coming by, and very glad to meet you.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Well, Mel Wymore. We are going to take a break. I'm going to be back in a minute with the results of tonight's Snap poll and a preview of tomorrow's program. Stay with us.